What's going on, guys? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and I'm back with the final Unearthed Arcana to Xanathar's Guide to Everything subclass comparison video. The last one on the list is the War Magic for the Wizard. I want it to be better than it is, and I want it to be as good as I hope it is in my brain, but I just don't feel like it is. Maybe I'm wrong, but I played one, and I feel like you'd do better as an Evocation Wizard, but let's get into it. So, alright, first of all, can we talk about whatever this familiar is that this War Mage here has? It's like a Kirin type thing, and it looks badass, and it's not a thing in the game that I know of anywhere, and that's disappointing, because that's freaking badass. So, there's a line here. In a great battle, a War Mage often works with Evokers, Abjurers, and other types of Wizard. Evokers, in particular, sometimes tease War Mages for splitting their attention between offense and defense. Sorry about that. A War Mage's typical response: what good is being able to throw a mighty fireball if I die before I can cast it? I don't feel like that's justified. So, to be completely honest, I was shocked that this is the subclass that made it into Xanathar's. When we started hearing about stuff, we knew that there was only going to be one wizard, as wizards have had the most classes, because you had one for every school of magic throughout the player's handbook, so that was a whole bunch of classes there. And we got the Blade Singer in Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, so we had an even more for the wizard. So they said all the other classes are going to get a little bit more love. Wizard's only going to get one class. So, when you look at the Unearthed Arcana, the fact that the Theurgy Wizard showed up in like a it might have been in the Warlock and Wizard, or it might have just been in like a random Unearthed Arcana. And then when they did the Wizard Revisited, they brought it back and tweaked it again. And this was the one I was hoping for, because Theurgy Wizard, it may be a little powerful, let's be honest, right? It's a wizard that has cleric spells. It learns the cleric's level highest abilities at 14, where a cleric doesn't get them till 17. But I thought they were kind of going down this path of non-traditional healers, right? So we saw the Divine Soul Sorcerer, we saw the Celestial Warlock. So I thought we'd see the Theurgy Wizard. So that was getting the three main arcane casting classes to have a healing-based subclass to help diversify things so you don't always have to rely on your same few classes. And the fact that this got a secondary revision, and possibly this may have been the third revision for the Theurgy Wizard, and it didn't make it in, I was shocked. But there was also the Lore Wizard, which everybody knows was way OP because it had crazy abilities, increasing damage, changing damage types, changing damage saving throws, you know, from like a fireball. It's an intelligence-based fireball, and things like that. They're very powerful, and they led to some interesting roleplay aspects, like how do you make a fireball an intelligence save? Explain to me how that happens. You don't have to, per the mechanic of the game, but I think that that's sort of the fun. But I was blown away by the fact that War Magic was the one that made it into the book, because I feel like it's kind of just, I feel like you'd be better off being an elf or a half-elf and being a Blade Singer. You'll have almost just as much defensive ability, or just be an Evocation Wizard and you'll be better. But let me explain to you why I say that, rather than me just ranting. So at level 2, when you choose the War Magic subclass, you get Arcane Deflection. When you are hit by an attack or fail a saving throw, you can use your reaction to add +2 to your AC against that attack, or add +4 to your saving throw. Once you use this feature, you can't cast spells other than cantrips until the end of your next turn. Okay, so first of all, as I've stated in other subclasses, anything that lets you take a hit or a fail and potentially turn it into a miss or a fail and turn it into a hit or a success is huge, because you cannot technically waste it, right? You know it works when you are hit by an attack. You could add 2 to your AC. When you fail a saving throw, you could add 4 to that saving throw. So that's pretty powerful, and you may say to yourself, well, I can use Shield as a first level spell and add 5 to my AC, and you would not be wrong. But Shield uses a first level slot. This ability is doesn't use up a spell slot, although it does limit you to not being able to cast your spell slots by only being able to cast a cantrip until the end of your next turn. And I think at low levels this is huge. At level 2, this ability is amazing, because you only have 3 spell slots at level 2, so you're probably going to rely more often than not on your cantrips, and maybe one of those spell slots has already been used for mage armor. So you're probably going to be using mostly cantrips at that point in the game anyway. So it's at low levels, this ability is amazing. As you start to get to higher levels, you're a 13th level wizard, and you added a 2 to your AC, and then limit yourself to only casting cantrips, that could be a big detriment to your party. Again, but on the flip side, turning a failed saving throw on something like a dominate person, a hold person, a plane shift, turning that from a failure and adding 4 to making that a success is a very big change, and that can be game changing. So I will argue in the defense of that, but the fact that you are limited to only casting cantrips is sort of a downer. Again, this is also a very defensive ability, meaning that you, as a wizard who potentially is the blasty type person, you are pretty much set yourself to a defensive mode here, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Just want to point that out. So, in the War Magic originally here, Arcane Deflection, when you're hit by an attack or fail a Constitution saving throw, they changed that. Now it is pretty much when it failed a Constitution saving throw, I feel like the thought process here was being that you would be able to maintain concentration. They changed that to just be any saving throw, which is definitely a benefit. +2 to AC, or +4 to the saving throw. Once you use this feature, you can't cast spells other than cantrips until the end of your next turn. So that was a big benefit, dropping Constitution, making it all saving throw, so it has better effects. So that was a good call. Still not crazy about it. And then Tactical Wit, you add your intelligence modifier to your initiative rolls, which is great. That's a solid static ability that you will never be unappreciative for having, especially if you're using point buy or your rolled stats that aren't so great. You're going to focus on intelligence because that's your main one. This could potentially make up for a 0 or a negative dexterity score by giving you a bonus to initiative, or maybe you have a 1. This now could make your initiative score higher. So this is very good. That, I can't argue with that, and that is exactly the same bonus to initiative. So here we get Power Surge. Now this is changed from what it was before, but I feel like it's changed and potentially not in a good way, but maybe so. I know that doesn't make sense, but let's discuss. So you can store magic in this thing in the form of what is called a Power Surge. You can store a maximum number of Power Surges equal to your intelligence modifier, minimum of 1. Whenever you finish a long rest, your number of Power Surges resets to 1, so you have 1. Whenever you successfully end a spell with Dispel Magic or Counterspell, you gain 1 Power Surge as you steal magic from the spell you foiled. If you end a short rest with no Power Surges, you can gain 1 Power Surge. Once you, so let's talk about that. Every day you have at least 1. If you end a short rest with no Power Surges, then you gain you gain 1. So more or less, you will typically have 1 throughout most situations, right? One at the end of a long rest, and 1 at the end of the short rest if you don't have any more. And then you can get an additional 1 with Dispel Magic or Counterspell. So that's pretty good, and you could potentially work out something with, say, you have a Warlock in the party, right? Who gets their spell slots back on a short rest. They could cast a spell that you could then Counterspell or Dispel if you wanted to stack yourself up with Power Surges, but then you're wasting your spell slots to just get Power Surges, and I don't think the benefit of it is that great. Once per turn, when you deal damage to a creature or object with a wizard spell, you can spend 1 Power Surge to deal extra force damage to the target. This extra damage equals your wizard level. Or sorry, half your wizard level. So, one time on your turn, when you do damage to a creature or an object with your wizard spell, you can spend 1 Power Surge to deal extra damage to that target. To a creature or an object. Not to multiple creatures, to a creature. And the damage is force damage, which is nice, but it is equal to your wizard level. Or, sorry, I keep saying that. Equal to half your wizard level. So at maximum, you go 20 levels into your wizard, you can only do this at a maximum of an extra 10 damage. You may have one of you'll have one of these at the end of a long rest. You'll have ones at the end of a short rest. But to get extra ones, to have a stack of these that you could start slinging this every turn, you have to dispel magic or counterspell something. And again, chances are you probably don't want to just do these things like I had said to stack up power surges. You want to use these when they're beneficial. But if you're running through an area of the game where you don't run into enemy magic or there are no enemy casters, this ability means you're going to have one. So it's I don't like it because it's very specific of what you need to do to get access to them, the dispel magic or counterspell. That being said, it is better than what it used to be, but we'll talk about that. And then again, the damage is equal to half your wizard level, so the most it will ever be is 10. It's 3 when you get this ability, and you can only choose to deal the damage to a creature or object with a wizard spell once per turn. So if you have multiple spell actions, you can only do it once a turn, and it says to that target. Let's look at what it used to be. Starting at 6th level, you can empower your spells that unleash harm on your foes. When you force multiple creatures to make saving throws against damage from one of your spells, you can increase the spell's damage by rolling 2 more of its damage dice. This increase occurs only once during the turn you cast the spell. Or occurs only on the turn you cast the spell, meaning that if it's a flaming sphere or some persistent thing, it only happens on that turn, not on the subsequent turns that deal extra damage. Or if it's a vitriolic sphere and it does the damage, and then more damage at the end of the turn, that's not the case. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. So this was way better, because again, you got this at level 6. You add 2 more to the damage dice. So your Scorching Ray could become a 2d6 Scorching Ray to a 4d6 Scorching Ray. Or your Burning Hands, which is a nice 15-foot cone, is now 5d6 on the Burning Hands, not 3d6, which is nice. And it was limited to once a short rest, but it was to all creatures affected by the spell. It means when you get to your level 6, your Fireball, now your 3rd level Fireball, to a group of people in a radius, now does 10d6 as opposed to 8d6. And again, the other version is half your wizard level, so at 6th level, that's 3 points, versus 2d6. If this was, if we're talking Fireball, that'd be 8d6 plus 3 to 1 creature, potentially, if that's, because it specifically says when you deal damage to a creature. So a creature could be damaged by your Fireball, meaning that creature would take 8d6 plus 3, whereas here, all creatures damaged by the Fireball would take 10d6. Again, even at max level, right, that would be 10 damage, and you'd still be rolling, if the scenario is the same, 2d6. You could potentially roll 12 and do better than you would at max level. This is assuming we're talking about d6 damaging spells. As you get later on, you're getting d8 damaging spells, so the damage would be 10 versus a potential 16, and potentially d10 damaging spells, so 10 versus 20. And again, here, it was limited to the short rest, which I think was a little weak, because it was your whole 6th level ability. But here, you can do it potentially multiple times if you hit the certain prerequisites, like Dispel or Counterspell or finish a short rest, but it only goes to 1 target. And I think that sucks. I'd much rather be the Evoker teasing the War Wizard and say, hey, guess what? My Fireball does extra damage equal to my Intelligence modifier to any evocation spell I cast, period. So my Fireball does 8d6 plus my Intelligence mod. My Firebolt does however many d10 plus my Intelligence mod. And as an Evoker, I can make my allies not get hurt by this. Even my cantrips that make saving throws, they still take half damage on a success. And when I get to 14, I can overcharge to do max damage, or to do extra damage. So that's awesome. This ability, meh. I think, personal opinion, if it was me, again, these are, like, I haven't said this in a while, but these are all my opinions. You're entitled to your own opinion, But I feel very strongly about this, as I do like concepts, character concepts, and I played one. I have I think an 8th level or a 9th level Adventure League War Mage, and in my brain when I built him, because I used DM rewards to do it, I was like, this is going to be so awesome, and I sat down to play, and I was like, oh, well shit. This guy takes an extra 4 damage, woo! You know, I don't know. It kind of bugged me. So I feel like I would have been much happier being an evocation wizard doing the same kind of stuff. I digress. So, personal opinion, how you fix this, keep this part of it, right? Maximum number equal to your intelligence modifier, get it at a long rest, get it from Dispel Magic and Counterspell, and one at the end of a short rest, but just give it this ability. When you, so this line, when you force multiple creatures to make saving throws against one of the damage of your spells, increase the damage by rolling 2 more of its damage dice once per turn, but you keep all of this part. So you can get multiple power surges, and this, if those were combined, that would make a scenario where you would want to stack up power surges so that you could potentially deal extra damage. Your Cone of Cold dealing 10d8 is great. You know what I mean? Your Disintegrate doing extra damage dice on the Disintegrate, or your Power... not Power Word Kill. What's the other one? Disintegrate. Finger of Death, right? Those would be great. So that, personal opinion, you want to make this a better class, combine those two, and then I'm pretty much good with everything else on the class, that everything else might be a little bit underpowered. But let's keep going. So at 10, you get Durable Magic. This is great. When you maintain concentration on a spell, you get a +2 to your AC and all your saving throws. I believe that's exactly the same here. Yeah, that is not bad. That's a great ability. You're maintaining concentration on a spell. This could be a banishment that you're maintaining concentration on. This could be a flaming sphere, hold person, whatever it might be. While you're maintaining concentration on that spell, you get a +2 bonus to your AC and all of your saving throws. Again, you're a 10th level wizard. You might have mage armor up. Right there, if you have mage armor and you're maintaining concentration on a spell, that means you're at 15 base AC plus your dex. That's not bad. You're adding 2 to all your saving throws. That could still work with your Arcane Deflection feature if you wanted to use it as a reaction using adding 2 to your AC, or 4 to your saving throw. So potentially between this Durable Magic and Arcane Deflection, if you needed to in a panic, you could have a +6 to a saving throw on top of whatever your modifier is, if you're proficient, and the roll. Throw in something like a Paladin that adds their Charisma modifier to your saving throws in your party, and you're rocking a pretty good chance about making whatever saving throw you're after. So that's pretty cool. Again, as I've said on many other occasions, I like abilities that synergize. Arcane Deflection and Durable Magic work very well together. Durable Magic plus the Shield spell also works very well together. There's a lot of cool things you can do, and I'm a fan of that. But Power Surge seems to be like one of your major abilities. Like this is an oh shit button, and it limits you to only casting cantrips. Intelligence to your dexterity to your initiative modifier, that makes sense. I'm on board with that. Durable Magic, great, but it only works when you're concentrating on a spell. Which I can hear you say, yes, I'm probably going to be concentrating on at least 1 spell per combat, and you may be right, but you might not. Depending on the positioning of the battlefield. I mean, okay, maybe you cast Fly, and there you go, you're flying, this gives you a benefit, so if I get that. But this is a defensive ability. This is a defensive ability when it comes up. This Power Surge level 6 ability is like your bread and butter cool ability of your subclass. It should be better, and I like the access and the way you can have multiple uses of it. This kind of fits into my philosophy you've heard me talk about for other subclasses, making their abilities X modifier times per long rest, or 1 plus X modifier times per long rest. This works. I like it. You have the ability to get more during the course of your adventuring day. But the minimal damage makes it subpar. So again, that's why I suggest you homebrew it to do that. But that's just me. And then lastly, Deflecting Shroud. At level 14, your Arcane Deflection becomes infused with Deadly Magic. When you use your Arcane deflection feature, you can cause magical energy to arc from you. Up to 3 creatures of your choice that you can see within 60 feet of you take force damage equal to half your wizard level. So, whenever you use your ability here to add a +2 to your AC or a +4 to your saving throws, which could be, again, synergizing here with your durable magic feature. Again, you're limited to only cantrips, but you can choose up to 3 creatures within 60 feet to take force damage equal to half your wizard level. So that's 3 creatures, that's a decent range, and that's a minimum of 7 force damage here, and potentially up to 10 force damage at 20. Let's look here. When you use your Arcane deflection feature, magical energy arcs from you. Each creature of your choice within 10 feet of you takes force damage equal to half your wizard level. So this was each creature of your choice within 10 feet of you, which is arguably, potentially, a lot more than 3 creatures within 60 feet. So this could get like a big blast of people, so I liked this ability, and the fact that it was of your choice. This is of your choice within 60 feet. Personally, half your wizard level at level 14, I feel like that kind of sucks. You look at the Storm Sorcerer, they're doing things that can do up to their Sorcerer level. There are other things that are doing that. I think if you make this, because it's your level 14 ability, and it's when you use your level 14, mind you, and you're using your level 2 ability, at level 14, you have, what do you have, 7th level spells at this point? And you're locking yourself into cantrips for a turn. I think you can make it your wizard level in damage. 14 force damage to 3 creatures of your choice within 60 feet, or 14 force damage to your choice of creatures within 10 feet. I mean, I'm okay with that. I think it should be equal to your wizard level, not half your wizard level. It's your capstone in the War Mage feature. But let me know what you guys think. Maybe I'm way off base and you guys thought of some crazy combination of spells and things or multi-class abilities that make this an amazing class. You know, maybe you could pair it with an Eldritch Knight fighter and then this ability goes a lot further, you know, potentially. Actually, just in thinking about it, it does. Right off the bat. An Eldritch Knight fighter mixed with a War Mage, when you can only cast cantrips, but if you're an Eldritch Knight fighter, you can still hit with your sword. So this actually goes... That's actually not a bad idea now that I think about it. You know, intelligence modifier plus dex for your Eldritch Knight, and then having a non-spell slot ability to give yourself a bonus to saving throws and AC. Plus, again, you could action surge. That's probably, in my opinion, probably one of the best ways to go. Now that I think about it. But like I said, let me know what you guys think, because as I stated during the course of this video, I feel like an Evoker Wizard has can do a lot of similar things, like the Power Surge ability, but better, and has more combat utility, I personally would say. But I also think that a Blade Singer does all of this, but better, right? Because a Blade Singer has defensive abilities as well. So a Blade Singer at level 2 gets Blade Song, so they can add their intelligence modifier to their AC for up to a minute. So that's huge, and that's constant on, and that's a bonus action to activate. They get 2 attacks, they get to reduce the damage of a spell by a spell slot times 5 or whatever it might be. They have a lot of really great defensive abilities, and then their 14th level ability is, I think, intelligence modifier to damage with their weapons. Yes, you can say that a Blade Singer fighting in melee is not as good as other classes, and I would agree with you, but you can still be a Blade Singer and not ever actually use your melee abilities, just use your Blade Song as a really good defensive tactic. And I feel like in a lot of cases, with the exception of the bonus to the saving throws, Blade Song beats out Arcane Deflection, I think, personally. Although you do have, again, I can hear you saying, I'll agree, you would argue that the restriction of being an elf or a half-elf does put a damper and make that a little bit more of a narrow-focused subclass. But, again, I feel like you have to hold War Mage to that standard, because that's something else that exists, and that's a wizard to compare it to. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I am very curious. This is our last subclass comparison video, so sorry to get so preachy at the end here. I'm a 25-minute video. But let me know what you guys think. This isn't the end of our Xanathar's coverage. There are still other parts of the book, like the magic items and the downtime and things like that, that I do want to cover in separate videos. So those will be coming, but I may take a little bit of a break again. but or not. We'll see what happens. I have to go back and see what things I didn't cover in my initial videos. So, anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.